In this video, we will show you how to replace your harmonic balancer on this Chevy Silverado with a 4.3 liter engine. This will be located along the front of your engine. Let's get into it. Okay friend, let's get started on our job. To gain access to the harmonic balancer, we're going to start by removing the upper fan shroud housing. Now for this, you're going to find that you have two 10mm headed bolts, and you also have 4 plastic push clips, 2 along each side. We'll start with the push clips. To remove the push clips, we'll be using a trim tool. Start in the center. As you start lifting that up, you'll find that the push clip becomes unlocked and you can remove the outer portion as well. A quick inspection of each one of the push clips as you remove them, replace them as necessary. We'll do the same to the other side. With all 4 of the push clips out of there, we'll continue on to those 2 10mm headed bolts across the top. Let's take hold of that upper fan shroud and carefully lift it up and out of here, being careful not to cause any damage to our radiator. A quick inspection and set it aside. Continue on to your lower fan shroud housing. This is going to be fairly simple. We'll lift it straight up and start twisting it to lift it out of here, once again paying close attention to the radiator. We'll continue on to removing the fan and the fan clutch from the water pump. To do this, you're going to use a 36mm fan clutch removal tool. We'll be turning this counterclockwise. As you start unscrewing it from the water pump, you want to be extremely careful the fan does not fall and potentially hit up against the radiator, causing damage. A quick inspection of the threaded area. And we'll set this aside as well. With the fan out of the way, let's pay attention to the serpentine belt. We're focusing on the routing. You'll find that it makes its way around each one of the pulleys in a certain way. After you've taken note of that, we'll make our way over towards the passenger side of the engine. This is where the tensioner is located. In this area, you're going to find a square notch that you can fit a 3/8 drive ratchet into or a serpentine belt tool. We'll be turning this counterclockwise to release tension. Carefully remove the belt from your idler pulley, and now you can release tension from that tensioner. Remove your tool. At this point, we'll fully remove our serpentine belt, give it a close inspection. If it looks like it's torn, worn, or damaged in any way, now's a perfect time to go ahead and replace it. This one's fine, we'll set it aside. Now let's pay attention down in this area. You're going to find that you have several bolts. We have 3 14mm headed mounting bolts, and you'll also have the center bolt here. We'll be starting with the 14mm. Let's continue on to our center bolt. For this one, we'll be using a 16mm. Now, to remove the harmonic balancer, you're going to have a pulley removal tool. They come in different shapes and sizes. This is the one we'll be using. To do this, you're also going to need to have 3 3/8 by 1.0 mounting bolts. When we set up the tool, we'll have the center driver inside of the center shaft here. Those bolts will go inside of the threaded ports. Let's make sure that we have all of these bolts threaded in evenly. Now let's continue on with the center driver. Now as we continue tightening the center shaft here, it's going to start drawing the harmonic balancer away from the engine. We'll be careful not to let it fall. Pry that right off of there. There it is, friend. With the harmonic balancer out of the way, we'll pay attention to our crankshaft. It's important to make sure you clean and inspect the area of the crankshaft and the seal around it. What you're going to find is on the crankshaft, typically you're going to have a keyway. Clean that area up. Once you know it's clean, we'll apply a thin amount of gasket maker in that same area. Something that's important to mention is it's typically a good idea to replace the gasket around this area since you have the harmonic balancer off anyways. If you're not, you need to at least give it a close inspection to ensure it's in good working order. Now that we have that area clean, we'll continue on with some gasket maker. You need to make sure that it's oil resistant gasket maker. We'll be applying a thin amount around where the keyway is. That'll help seal the area so no oil makes its way out. Just a tiny amount will do. Now before we can install this, we're going to apply a thin amount of clean motor oil along the back side here. We'll just use a gloved finger and just go right inside the port, not necessarily where that keyway is, because of course that is where we have that sealant. Let's get this crank pulley installed. When we bring it down, we'll be aligning that keyway. You may just have to twist this a little bit, one direction or the other if necessary. For the pulley installer, we're going to make sure that we start that in the center, by hand of course, and we'll snug up that center driver. Now when you go to press the pulley on, you want to make sure that you hold the center driver counterclockwise, and we'll be turning the larger nut clockwise to drive that pulley in. So right there I can feel quite a bit of pressure. At this point, we'll go ahead and back this off and we can continue on with our mounting bolt. Now that we have the harmonic balancer fully installed on there, we'll continue on with our crank pulley. Get it aligned in the center. Once you have that aligned, we're going to continue on with aligning our mounting bolt ports. With all three of those bolts started, we'll snug them up and then torque them to 43 foot-pounds. When you do this, you may find that the crank wants to spin on you. You can typically hold this by hand. Now we can put in our center mounting bolt. It's a good idea to replace this bolt with a brand new one. Otherwise, you need to at least thoroughly inspect it, and then we'll continue on with installing it and then torquing it to 70 foot-pounds. Now it's time to install the serpentine belt. We'll install this in the same routing as what we had removed it. Start with the crank down along the bottom there, making our way up and over the water pump, around the power steering pump pulley, up and over the AC pulley. Now we'll take the other side of the belt from around that harmonic balancer crank pulley. We'll bring it up around the tensioner, up around the alternator. Now we'll continue on applying light pressure to bring the belt underneath the idler pulley and continue at that tensioner, turning it counterclockwise to release tension. Before we go any further, you need to confirm that the belt is completely seated going around each and every one of the pulleys as it should. If it's off by even one groove, you're going to cause damage to the belt and potentially other damage as well. Now that we've confirmed the belt looks good, we'll continue with our lower fan shroud, carefully sliding this down into place along the radiator. Now it's time for the fan. We'll take this and screw it directly onto that water pump threading. At this point, you'll take your fan clutch tool, 36mm, and just give this a light tap clockwise to lock it in. Time for the upper fan shroud. Slide this into place. With that rested in place, we'll start with the upper mounting bolts. We're just starting these in by hand. We'll leave them loose for now. After that, we'll put in each of our 4 clips. Let's snug these up. Okay friend, we finished our installation. At this point, it's a good idea to make sure that you do an oil change on the vehicle. Make sure you use the proper manufacturer's specified oil and of course replace the filter. After that, go ahead and start up your vehicle, take it for a road test, and then check for leaks. Aside from that, thanks for watching.
When only the best will do, demand TRQ. The only company that lets you view before you do. TRQ is committed to offering the highest quality aftermarket auto parts that are engineered for peace of mind. Thanks for using and viewing with TRQ.